Your existing pop-up versus our pop-up. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up an A/B test that could grow your list 3 times faster. So before we start, just make sure you've got your incentive, which has to be the same one as your existing pop-up, your logo with transparent background, your font, your main color, and your background color. So what type of pop-up are we going to be making? We've done dozens of tests where we've tested pop-ups with images, no image, with special 3D animations and stuff. And the conclusion is there is no correlation between how good the pop-up looks and the performance of the pop-up. So we are not going to overcomplicate stuff. We are going to stick with simplicity and making sure that it's easy to understand for the visitor. So we are going to go for a pop-up with no image, and as you will see, this pop-up is going to outperform whatever pop-up you have at the moment. So just to show you a preview of what the pop-up will look like, we'll have a teaser first, the first step, the second step, the third step, the fourth step, and finally the last step. You might be wondering, why are there so many steps? That's because if we show the email input field, the name input, the SMS input all on one step, it's going to be too overwhelming for the visitor, and we don't want them to get overwhelmed and look for the close icon or the no button on autopilot. We want to make it super light. At the start we ask them, hey, do you even want this? Instead of straight away showing them an email input field. By the way, if you are an e-com brand doing over 20k per month, we'll completely transform your Klaviyo flows, and you don't pay a penny unless we outperform your existing flows. And if we don't, we send you $1,000 for wasting your time. So if you're ready to scale with email and SMS without lifting a finger, click the link in the description and get started. Okay, enough talking. Let's go to your Klaviyo dashboard, go to sign up forms, look for the pop-up that has the highest submits. So down here, you can see a pop-up with the highest number of submits. Click on that. And if you've tried to set up a pop-up A/B test before, it's going to look something like this. Simply press on edit and you'll see this. Click on clone variation, or you might have a create A/B test button. Just click on it and name the new pop-up JNew. Save. So before we start configuring each step, let's edit the style of the entire pop-up. There's a lot of stuff over here. You don't need to touch everything, just touch whatever I touch. So width is going to be 350, minimum height is going to be 350, no side image, choose your background color, corner radius do 20, padding make it 20 top, bottom, left and right, margin do 0, text and headings, select your font, choose font size 20, same over here, input field text, choose font size 20, and input field height is going to be 45. And one more thing before we start doing the steps, let's configure the teaser. Just select my settings, do rectangle, custom width of 120, display settings, make sure you select this one, show before displaying form and after, make sure this is not ticked, and the copy is simply going to be get 10% off, so get the incentive, whatever the incentive is. Corner radius, I like to do 10 over here, and block margin, don't touch this, leave it as it is, and just check on desktop as well, that's fine. Next, before we start configuring all of the steps, I want to show you something which is going to simplify everything. So like I said, the pop-up we're about to make has 5 steps, and each step consists of blocks, and you can find those blocks over here. Okay, you have all the blocks you need. So our plan of action is going to be make step 1, and then we are going to clone step 1 to make the rest of the steps, which is going to make things super quick. Okay, so first I'd just like to delete everything. For some reason it's not going to allow you to delete everything, so just leave one element. Now let's add the blocks. So for step 1, it's an image, text, button, a second text block, and another button block. So let's add a image block, and then another button block, and then add another text block, and then we have the second button. That's it. So now let's configure starting from the top. I always like to go systematically left to right or top to bottom. So image, select your logo, choose width 50 pixels, but if your logo is small, choose 100 pixels. Next, here the copy, just simply copy whatever our copy is. 10% off, go question mark, make it font size 50, choose your font and make sure it's aligned in the middle, and also make sure that the incentive is on one line, like this, and the line height, this line spacing, make it 250. Next we have the first button. The action is going to be submit form. After submit, show next step. That's all good. Text is going to be simply yes. Choose your font. Font size is going to be 20. Choose the color over here and adjust the button color. And depending on if your brand is edgy or round, you can round the corners. And the height of the button is going to be 45 pixels. Next, the second text block is simply going to be or. Font size 20. Choose your font, line it in the middle. That's it. Next, the last button's action is going to be close form, and the text is going to be no. Your font size, choose the colors. So yeah, 45, the same as the first button. That's all good. So now let's name the step properly before we clone it. So this is going to be called yes, no step. So after naming it, simply click on clone. The next step is going to be email clone. So step number 2, the composition is simply an image, 2 text blocks, email input field, and 2 buttons. So we have an image, we have a text block, then we can simply drag the second text block on top. By the way, make sure you're on the email step and you don't touch the first step. So make sure you're on the email step, and yeah, so image, 2 text blocks, and 2 button blocks. So the image, leave it as it is. The text block, change the copy to get 10% off and make it on one line. Okay, if needed, you can slightly decrease the font size so that it's on one line. So I'm just going to do 45 here. And the second text block is for the condition of the discount code. So for example, minimum order must be $50, and make sure it's on one line. Again, you can decrease the font to make sure it's on one line. And the first button, actually before the first button, we have the email input. So over here, label is simply going to be email, and that's it. You don't need to change anything else over here. And the first button's action is going to be submit form. List to submit is going to be the list that triggers your welcome flow. And after submit, show next step. And that's it. You don't need to touch anything else because we've already configured the button styles in the last step. So that's all good. But the second button, we need to make the color transparent. Actually, sorry. For the first button, we just need to change the copy to submit. And then the second button, make sure the action is closed form. The copy is going to be no thanks, with a full dot at the end. And like I was saying, the button color, make it transparent like this, and change the font color so that it's visible like this. Okay, that's all good. Now we can move on to the next step, which is the name step. Again, make sure you're on the next step, name, and the composition of step number 3, which is image, text, input field, and 2 buttons, basically the same as the previous step. So we have an image, we have the text, another text block which we can delete, we don't need that anymore, and then we need to replace the email input field with a text input field, and that's it. Now let's start tweaking from the top. Image, leave it as it is. The first text block, you need to change the copy to almost there. Text input, label, name, first name, and profile property, select first name. You don't need to make it required. So submit button is now going to be, but you only need to change the copy for the buttons. So text is going to be get 10% off, and the last button is going to stay the same, close form, all good. Now the second last step is going to be SMS. So just clone, make sure you're on the SMS step, and the composition of step number 4 is image, text, SMS input, SMS disclaimer, and 2 buttons. So image, text input, which we can now delete. Look for at the bottom, look for SMS, add it below the text and above the button, and yeah, that's it. Now let's start tweaking each block. Image, leave it as it is. The text is going to be final step, like this. Then the SMS block, simply label it phone number, placeholder, you don't need to change anything else. just adjust the default country. You don't need to make it required, and that's it. Now the disclosure block, edit, there's going to be a placeholder which you have to edit. Just add in your brand name, UK, go back, and then make sure you change the font size to 8, and you can choose your font if you want. That's it. The button can stay the same as the last step. The second button needs to say no text, just emails, and this is it. Next is going to be the success step, and this one is very straightforward. We have a text block, a coupon block, and 2 button blocks. It shows 2 button blocks, but it's supposed to be 1 button. So we have the text, we can delete the second text. Let's add the coupon block. Now let's start configuring. From the top, the first line is simply going to say success. A line in the middle, choose your font, do font size 50. The second line, right, here's your code of this, and then change the font size of the second line to 25. Also a line in the middle, and line spacing, just do 200. Next you have the coupon code. Choose static, it's just much more simple. Code 10, for example. This is going to be the discount code. Make sure you've made this inside of Shopify. Font, choose your font, and that's it. Next we have the button. Just unfortunately we can't clone the success step, so you might have to remake the button, but just make sure the action is close form. Text says close, font size 20. Just choose your colors, okay? Add roundness if you want, and the height should be 45 pixels. One last thing, which I almost forgot to tell you, but it's very significant, and it's this close icon. Change the size of this close icon to 1 pixel, because they're used to visiting dozens of websites, hundreds of websites. We don't want them to simply close the pop-up, because it's the habit. We want them to engage with the content and then consciously select no. We've now finished configuring how the pop-up looks and sounds, but now comes the most important part, which is the targeting and behavior of the pop-up. This can literally kill your pop-up if you get it wrong. So it doesn't matter which step you're on, simply click on targeting and behavior. We've tested these settings extensively, so just trust me on this. Copy whatever settings I'm going to show you. Simply copy our settings. Based on rules, when a visitor is exiting the page, make sure it's ticked. After time delay of 2 seconds. After visitor has scrolled, 10%. Okay, make sure this is off. Change the frequency to 1 day. Make sure this is ticked. Display on. Now, depending on if the pop-up you're testing against is a mobile only pop-up, then select mobile only. If your existing pop-up is on both desktop and mobile, just do desktop and mobile. And then this one, make sure this is off. Click outside form to close. Make sure this is off. Okay, so the display settings are done. Now the targeting settings. It should be don't show to existing Klaviyo profiles. Okay, or else you don't need to put any exclusions over here unless you have like a special page. UTM parameters, no need. Location, also no need to overcomplicate. You don't need to put any location filters, and that's it. Now simply click on continue to test settings and make sure the weight is manual, so that it's 50-50, and untick this and just simply press on publish test. After a few days you're going to see the results of the A/B test and you're going to be shocked.